We all know the feeling of being stuck. Your heart pulls you toward a personal desire, while your mind insists on fulfilling an external duty. This tension persists as a constant state of conflict. It is an endless, daily war fought between what you want to do and what you feel you must do. To navigate this conflict, we generally rely on one of two emotional operating systems. There is the outward, caregiving strategy of the light, and the inward, boundary-focused strategy of the darkness. To use these systems effectively, we have to drop our preconceptions. In this context, light and darkness have nothing to do with morality. They are simply functional tools for managing your psychological bandwidth. You have finite emotional energy every day, which must be consciously directed. The radiating wave on the left represents exerting energy outward to stabilize your environment, the light. The dense wave on the right draws energy inward, fortifying your personal boundaries, the darkness. The danger lies in indecision. When you refuse to choose a pathway, your emotional energy doesn't disappear, it bottles up, creating a volatile internal pressure cooker. By failing to select a framework, you stop managing your internal reserves. You simply become a victim to whatever happens when they eventually spin them over. Let's examine the first system, starting with those who naturally default to serving as a beacon for the people around them. This matrix breaks down the mechanics of the light strategy. The core catalyst for action here is responding to external needs and pleas, rather than focusing on personal desire. Operating this way turns you into a necessary anchor. When you consistently answer calls for help, vulnerable people naturally tether themselves to your stability. This strategy offers a significant psychological return. You step into the role of a protector, a guiding beacon for those navigating their own struggles. But the role of the protector is a heavy burden. It demands that you consistently suppress your own internal alarms to keep others steady. This points directly to the system's critical flaw. To run this strategy, you must engage in continuous self-sacrifice, leading to severe emotional depletion. Because your emotional reserves are strictly finite, every ounce of energy you spend prioritizing the healing of someone else is an energy source drained from your own battery. The light strategy is highly effective at saving your surrounding environment, but without a recharge, it eventually leads to total burnout as your resources run dry. The opposing framework is the darkness strategy. It is built for survival and the absolute enforcement of your personal boundaries. Looking back at the matrix, the core catalyst for the darkness strategy is boundary fortification. You cloak yourself in rigid rules and actively ignore the demands of the outside world. By systematically absorbing or ignoring external negativity, you remain resolute. The chaotic emotions of others crash against you, leaving you untouched by manipulation. The psychological upside here is absolute self-reliance. You achieve a state of total emotional autonomy, freeing yourself from the need for external validation. This strategy of resilience is a double-edged sword. The exact same walls that shut out external harm also shut out external help. The critical flaw of this system is that it requires you to exist in a state of profound solitude and disconnection. When you permanently block all external emotional inputs to protect yourself, you starve your life of deep, meaningful human connection and affection. The darkness strategy makes you invincible to the pain others can cause, but the price of that invincibility is extreme loneliness, which can slowly erode your humanity over time. Knowing these costs, many of us attempt to opt out. We try to refuse both the exhausting burden of the light and the extreme isolation of the darkness. The false solution is to cast your complex, raw feelings into an internal void, hoping to escape the conflict entirely. This animation illustrates how that internal void is entirely deceitful. It appears to be infinitely vast, but it possesses strict physical limits. Those suppressed feelings do not vanish. Left unattended, they multiply and brew into a pressurized tempest just beneath your surface. Eventually, you hit a breaking point. You run out of corners to hide the pressure, and the void suddenly overflows into a violent avalanche of raw emotion. This uncontrolled surge compromises everything. In that chaotic state, you lose the ability to care for others, and you lose the ability to defend your own boundaries. Even your basic perceptions fail. Amid an emotional explosion of this scale, your sensation of being loved or understood becomes completely distorted. Avoiding a strategic choice between light and darkness does not grant peace. It simply delays the timeline until your internal pressure reaches its limit and creates emotional chaos. To prevent that overflow, you need a functional decision tree. We'll call this the Strategy Alignment Protocol, a diagnostic tool to resolve your inner war based on your current personal resource levels. This chart centers around one primary diagnostic question: are your own emotional needs currently being met? If your internal reserves are full, you have surplus energy. That surplus makes it safe to adopt the light strategy. The ideal candidates for this path are individuals in stable environments who possess the actual emotional bandwidth to safely guide and protect others. Being the light is a heavy lift. It should always be treated as an investment of your surplus emotional capital, never as a baseline expectation of your existence. If your answer is no, you are operating with empty reserves. This requires the immediate deployment of the darkness strategy. This path is designed for individuals actively recovering from trauma, navigating toxic environments, or facing situations that demand intense self-preservation. Utilizing darkness in these moments is not a moral failure. It is a tactical necessity to rebuild your resilience in solitude until your reserves refill. Life is not static. Managing your energy requires fluid movement between these two operating systems as your environment and your circumstances shift. The truth is, the war between your desires and your duties will never permanently end. Life will continuously drain and replenish your internal resources. True psychological optimization is not about permanently defeating one side of yourself. It is about knowing exactly when the world requires your guiding beacon and exactly when you must raise your unyielding shield.